Tonight on SpeedWeek. This is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we voted in the following members. Good golly, Miss Molly. SpeedWeek is next. Hi, everyone, and welcome to SpeedWeek. I'm Bob Jenkins. As you can tell from our open, just about every major racing event this past weekend created a highlight that will not soon be forgotten. Luckily, in all that action, no one was seriously injured, and tonight we'll bring you the ramifications of several of those incidents. In the three previous Winston Cup restrictor plate races, Sterling Marlin, Mark Martin, and Jeff Gordon had all visited victory lane. The key to winning Talladega is whatever horsepower advantage you can get. On Sunday, we saw Sterling Marlin unlock the door again. First, Sterling had to endure a violent thunderstorm that twice held up Friday's qualifying. His speed of 194.212 miles an hour stood up, however, and Marlin became the 10th different pole sitter of the year, but the only driver in this race with a chance at the Unocal bonus of over $121,000. Under oppressive hot weather conditions, Marlin led the 43-car field, including 5 Chevrolets up front, for what would be a long stretch of 111 laps under green. By lap 17, both Gordon and Earnhardt had taken turns up front, bringing the point frontrunners even in the bonus round. When the leaders pitted on lap 47, Bill Elliott stayed out to finally lead his first laps of 1995. Past the halfway mark, it was still a pretty exclusive three-way battle, only broken up for a short caution for debris on lap 111. The heat took its toll on several drivers, including Brett Bodine. He had to be relieved by Randy LaJoie on lap 138 after inhaling fumes in the cockpit. Moments later, the biggest crash of the year was about to unfold, with Earnhardt leading, Marlin, Michael Waltrip, Mark Martin, and Morgan Shepherd. 8th place Ken Schrader was tagged by teammate Jeff Gordon, triggering a multi-car pileup with Schrader flipping wildly down the backstretch. Lake Speed, Terry and Bobby Labonte, John Andretti, Todd Bodine, and Rusty Wallace were all eliminated. Here's a look at it from the in-cars of Gordon and Jeremy Mayfield. Schrader was checked out and released from the infield care center. Miraculously, his only injury was a bruised eye.
We just caught a little too much air over there. I don't know. I think we got turned around a little bit. Somebody caught us from the left rear. But it just took off, you know. I don't know if it took off when we hit the grass or what, but played sprint car, held on, head down, arms up.
In the final 40 laps, a very shaken Gordon could not catch the leaders. For that matter, no one could touch Marlin. Remember we told you about his secret? Well, it was engine builder Runt Pittman who toiled round the clock for the last 10 days on Sterling's motor. So instead of the traditional winter interview, here's the man under the hood, who's still not saying much about his unique-sounding power plant.
Well, thank all the boys in the engine room and the shop. Everybody done a real good job.
Gordon's 8th place finish allowed Marlin to close the gap to 78. Musgrave managed 11th and fell 2 positions to 5th. The spread from 1st to 5th is now 178. In our version of the Restrictor Plate Championship, Mark Martin takes the honors with finishes of 3rd, 4th, 1st, and 7th in the Daytona Talladega races. Shepherd's crew chief Leonard Wood was named the Western Auto Mechanic of the race. The Citgo Ford rallied from a 24 starting spot to run consistently in the top 5 all day. Shepherd finished 4th, and Wood picked up a $2,000 bonus. In Saturday's Busch Grand National race, this late multi-car accident triggered by the 47 car of Jeff Fuller and the 75 of Rick Wilson sent Randy LaJoie tumbling over the hood of Larry Pearson. Out of the shot, the number 17 Chevy of Robbie Reiser hit the inside retaining wall and came to a rest on the track apron. Reiser was taken to Caraway Medical Center in Birmingham, where he was treated for a closed head wound and also underwent surgery for a broken right leg. He was released Thursday morning. Chad Little picked up his 5th win of the year. Following the Die Hard 500, over 16 teams descended on Indianapolis for a last chance on dialing in before next Saturday's Brickyard 400. Wednesday morning's session was interrupted by a crash involving Indy 500 pole sitter Scott Brayton. Driving a Ford Thunderbird owned by Earl Sadler, Brayton got loose in turn 1, hitting both the outside wall and the inner guardrail. He was treated at Methodist Hospital for a concussion and a broken left ankle.
I was a little surprised by how loose the car got going in, because it hadn't been loose, and I've driven about 300 miles of testing. With getting knocked out and, you know, chipping the bone on my ankle, I just felt at this point, you know, my entry into NASCAR shouldn't be with a handicap.
Here's a look at some of the top speeds from over 6 days of testing for the Brickyard 400. Between 55 and 60 entries are expected to try to break Rick Mass' pole speed last year of over 172 miles an hour.
Speed Week is brought to you by Jiffy Lube. If it doesn't say Jiffy Lube, it isn't.
Coming up next on Speed Week, Robbie makes a mistake at the lake. Welcome back to the show. For the 14th consecutive year, the IndyCar Series ran on the wide-open concrete at Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. And somehow the description late race drama doesn't even come close to matching what happened.
But let's back up just a little bit and congratulate Gilles de Ferran on his first career pole position. He waited until the last lap of the last session to relegate Villeneuve to second. At the green, de Ferran got the jump, but there was immediate trouble in row 3. Andre Ribeiro, Paul Tracy, and Scott Pruitt were all involved. Andre was out. Tracy only lasted 17 laps, and we'll see more of Scott later. Instructed in the driver's meeting to come through the final corner 2 abreast, the replay shows that Tracy didn't have much room. A hooked-up de Ferran checked out on the field, leaving Villeneuve and Teo Fabi to fight for second. Only during his first stop did the Brazilian rookie lose sight of the lead. But this was not a boring race by any means. Robbie Gordon used his aggressive style and the wide runways to pressure Villeneuve in this battle for third. What followed couldn't happen on a street circuit. Both kept going after shortcutting through the grass. On the second round of stops, Fabi captured the lead from de Ferran, but 1 lap later, a possible victory was taken from the Forsyth team by a broken exhaust. The only caution of the 90-lap event came 20 from the end when Eric Bachelard spun into the tire barrier. His car was left in a very precarious position between the last 2 corners and had to be removed. On the restart, de Ferran had his mirrors full of Gordon and Andretti, and the view out the front was the jet dryer trying to get out of the way. Gordon tried to take advantage but couldn't hold the line. With 5 laps remaining, de Ferran passed Andretti to regain the lead, but could not clear the 2-lap-down machine of Pruitt. The Brazilian's first career win will have to wait. Both drivers were uninjured, and de Ferran was visibly upset with Pruitt as the 2 exchanged words. No full course caution was called, and coming down for the white flag, Brian Herta made his move on Andretti coming into the same corner. But when Herta slowed for the local yellow, Andretti jumped out, and out of nowhere, Jacques split the difference and captured the lead. Michael sealed his fate in turn 1 when he ran up on Villeneuve. As he slowed on the backstretch, teammates Herta and Jimmy Vasser passed on their way to podium finishes. By being in the right place at the right time, Villeneuve wins his 4th of the year, and the points race takes a big turn. Pruitt, now down to 7th, is no longer a factor. Rahal is 132 behind, and along with Gordon and Andretti are the only 3 with a shot. There are 5 races to go. This post-checkered contact between Robbie and Michael earned them a visit with IndyCar officials. Gordon was fined $10,000 for deliberate contact, and both drivers have been placed on probation for the remainder of the year. And IndyCar has told SpeedWeek by the end of next week they plan to complete the re-inspection of Al Unser Jr.'s impounded Penske that was disqualified after winning the Portland race. Even though we're still in the middle of summer, one sanctioning body has already decided their points race. In dominating fashion, a young Canadian is making us think deja vu all over again. Here's Chris McClure.
Thanks, Bob. Everywhere you look around the Firestone Indy Light Series this year, you could swear you're looking at an IndyCar scene. The dominant car is Baby Blue. The prevalent driver is a very young Canadian. And the north of the border sponsor is getting a lot of American exposure. With only one loss in 9 races, 20-year-old Greg Moore gritted on the pole at Cleveland, poised to clinch a championship. Only Robbie Buell could spoil his day. Buell in the white car, starting on row 1 next to Moore, never had a chance, however, as he swung wide at the drop of the green. Coming into turn 1, Buell made contact with Buzz Calkins, sending Buell into a spin and Alfonso Giaffoni out of the race. Robbie ran only 15 laps before retiring with engine problems, and that automatically gave the title to Moore, which he polished off with a wire-to-wire victory. Gary Gerould met the new champion in victory lane.
There's the helmet off, the earplugs out, and here's a brand new Indy Lights champion, and what a season you have been enjoying. What was the emotion, Greg, when you learned that Robbie Buell was out of the competition?
Well, I hadn't learned that he was out of the competition. I knew that he was, that he was in the pits, but I didn't know if he was out or not. And so I just put my head down and just kept driving as fast as I could, and it just turned out unreal.
So what's the emotion of this moment now as the realization sinks in? You've just won a great championship.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. The whole Players Limited team, my engineer, Steve Chalice, has just done an unreal job for me. And, the whole team has just done a great, great job.
And the performance from the cockpit has also been superb. At 20 years and 3 months, he becomes the youngest champion in the 10th year of the series. He set a record by winning the first 5 races of the year and still has 3 races left to match Paul Tracy's single-season record of 9 wins. In a wild incident just after Moore took the checkered, Trevor Siebert, trying to catch Doug Boyer for 3rd, ran up over Boyer's rear wheel and began a series of high cartwheels, reaching as high as 20 feet. Siebert luckily landed right side up. Boyer, who said he was only operating on 5 cylinders, may have had a power lag, causing Siebert to run up on him so quickly. Siebert was checked over at a local hospital and released late Sunday afternoon. Very good news after an accident that looked so violent. For SpeedWeek, I'm Chris McClure.
All right, thank you, Chris. The NHRA moved to the mile-high Bandimere Speedway outside of Denver last weekend. Due to the altitude, speed records are rarely an issue. As Dave McClellan tells us, the focus instead was on consistency in the first of a consecutive 3-race Western swing.
Thanks, Bob. After defeating his father, Warren, in round 3 of Pro Stock eliminations, Kurt Johnson earned his first final round appearance of the year against second-place pointsman Jim Yates. In the closest final of the afternoon, Johnson's 4:23 reaction time, remember 4:00 is perfect, gave him the advantage and upset Yates for the win with an ET of 7.49 seconds and a speed of over 183 miles an hour. What has turned into a 2-man race is now very close. Yates narrows the gap from 28 to 10 behind the elder Johnson. Jerry Ekman and winner Johnson are separated by only 7 in the battle for 3rd. The funny car final came down to a John Force, Al Hoffman showdown. Only the 2nd time they have met for a title this year. But it was a non-contest from the green. Hoffman smoked the tires, allowing Force to cruise to his 5th win of the season, and he credited lane choice for the advantage. Force also padded his lead, distancing himself by 136 over Hoffman. Cruz Pedregon, who lost to Force in the semis, is now 208 behind. Looking for his 3rd consecutive win, Scott Coletta also had the points lead in the final when Corey McLenathan was ousted in round 1. Coletta had lane choice against Blaine Johnson and was almost caught at the line napping when Johnson posted a near-perfect reaction time of 4:02. But by half-track, Coletta outpowered him for his 9th career win. The elapsed time, an astounding achievement for the high altitude, 4.81 seconds. McLenathan's point lead of 3 turns into a deficit of 80. Dixon remains in 3rd, while Dunn and Johnson swap 4th place. For SpeedWeek, I'm Dave McClellan.
Thanks, Dave, and stay tuned. Jack gets dethroned in the kingdom of Eldora.
Welcome back to SpeedWeek. I'm Marty Reed, and we take you now to action in round number 5 of the SOTA World Series of Off-Road Racing this past weekend in Milan, Michigan. Watch the start of the Class 4 race. Scott Douglas gets sideways and gets nailed by Rob McCachran, and Jack Flannery climbs up on 2 wheels and rolls right over McCachran. The race was red flagged for a restart. Jack Flannery had his bell rung, but he turned out to be okay. His truck was not, though, as he did not make the restart of the Class 4 race. He would return for the Manufacturer's Challenge. More on that in a minute. Scott Douglas climbed back into the Mike Leslie-owned vehicle, not only made the restart, but he ended up winning the Class 4 race. The truck looked a mess, but Douglas took it to victory lane. Later in the Manufacturer's Challenge race, Jack Flannery did return with a point to prove. Jack won the race as he got a tremendous start and picked up the much-deserved congratulations from his crew. And in return, he thanked his crew for putting that truck back together again. For SpeedWeek, I'm Marty Reed.
Thanks, Marty. We'll stay on the dirt as we bring you the best of this week's short track and highlights. Here's Dave the King Wilson.
Thanks, Bob. On Saturday night, Billy Boat tried to rewrite the USAC record book as he sought his 8th straight victory in the Western States Division at Bakersfield Speedway. Boat in the Black 15 provided some early excitement while battling Larry Brown for the lead in the third heat. Boat passed Brown out of turn 4 and beat Brown to the line by a foot. During intermission, Boat and car owner John Lawson were honored for tying the USAC win record. All of Boat's wins this season have come in Lawson's midgets. Boat started on the pole for the 30-lap feature and led the 20-car field into the first turn. Boat had a healthy lead when a John Kofer flip on lap 8 brought out the red flag. On the restart, Hank Butcher tried to slide underneath Boat in turn 1 but couldn't make it stick. While Boat pulled away, Butcher had his hands full holding off Rick Hendricks for second. But with 4 laps to go, Butcher's car lost power in the backstretch and had to retire. Neither Hendricks nor anyone else could catch Boat, who led all 30 laps and cruised to the record-breaking victory.
Well, I think it gives us some momentum going into the Belleville Nationals for in 2 weeks. You know, that's a real big race that we're looking forward to running. And then, you know, now the pressure's off. We got the record. You know, if we take it farther from here, fine. You know, we're always going to be here to win every one. But if something happens, we don't. I think the pressure's kind of off, and we can just start another streak.
Eldoro promoter Earl Baltus welcomed drivers Saturday to the $50,000 to win Kings Royal. It was evident in the first heat that the big money had everyone's attention as Bobby Davis Jr. got together with Ed Lynch Jr., launching Jack Heidenschau's mount into the air as both cars flipped wildly. The drivers were unhurt. On the replay, we can see that when Lynch's car turned over, it tossed Heidenschau skyward. Also note that the number 1 of Sammy Swindell somehow avoids the flipping cars, but can't avoid the inside retaining wall. Lynch was done for the night, but the Wild Child returned to win the C-Main. Todd Kane and Joey Saldana comprised the front row for the 40-lap feature, with Saldana jumping out to an early lead. Dave Blaney started 4th and got by Kane for 2nd off turn 2. There's a Steve Kinzer slide job, this time for 4th past Todd Kane. But Kane pulls the same move on the King in turn 3. That turn also saw the only lead pass of the race when Blaney shot past the second-generation driver Saldana to take over the top spot. Blaney had this close moment when Rob Chaney spun and was collected by Jeff Shepard. Mark Kinzer couldn't stop in time and slid into the wrecked car. Everyone was okay. Blaney then stretched out his lead and recorded his 2nd Kings Royal victory and the $50,000 check. For SpeedWeek, I'm Dave the King Wilson.
Gary Lee is up next in the SpeedWeek newsroom with the latest qualifying and news. Gary?
Thanks, Bob. As we saw earlier, Robbie Gordon left Cleveland with a fine and probation, but things got worse for the young driver in practice on Friday for the Michigan 500. He spun in turn 4, slammed the outside wall, knocking himself out. Now, he did come back around at the racetrack, but he was airlifted to Foot Memorial Hospital. IndyCar Medical Director Steve Alvey lists his condition as stable. Now, the x-rays and CAT scans were negative, but he'll not be likely cleared to drive for at least 7 days. For the first time in an IndyCar practice session, a Honda-powered car is fastest. Andre Ribeiro sets atop the field with a speed of 230.834 miles an hour. Now, that's well below Mario Andretti's 1993 record of 234.275. But remember, IndyCar has decreased the boost to 40 inches in an attempt to keep the car slower on the new pavement. Before his crash, Gordon had posted the 7th quickest time. And Parker Johnstone has a second Honda in the top 10 at a speed just under 228. Qualifying will take place Saturday afternoon. You can see it on ESPN2 at 4 p.m. Eastern. 34 cars took practice times. The NHRA moves to Sears Point Raceway in California for the Autolite Nationals. No new track record set, but some familiar names are on the leaderboard after Friday afternoon's first round of qualifying. Warren Johnson, Mark Oswald, and Scott Coletta set the early pace. And old JP, Johnny Parsons, ended a 3-year USAC drought with a win on Thursday Night Thunder. Johnny is now the winningest driver at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
We've got so much confidence in the guys working on it and the stealth chassis. I mean, we got the best, equipment that's around, so I've got to step up.
And this final note, the organizers of the SCCA Trans Am Dallas Grand Prix have canceled their event for mid-September. There seems to be a conflict with the Dallas Cowboys home football game, and also they have no title sponsor. Organizers hope to have the event back on the schedule in 1996. I'm Gary Lee. Have yourself a great weekend.
Thanks, Gary. Now here's a look at the CarQuest racing calendar with events coming up. For all your auto parts needs, you'll find it at CarQuest.
Speed Week has been brought to you by Walmart. Always low prices, always Walmart. And by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life.
Besides ESPN's extensive coverage of practice and qualifying for the Brickyard 400, our crews will also have temporary headquarters at Indianapolis Raceway Park for 3 consecutive nights of live racing. Here's what we have in store.
Leading off the Kroger Festival of Speed at Indianapolis Raceway Park is Wednesday night's USAC Silver Crown Yellow Cab 100. Richmond winner Jack Hewitt will attempt to protect his points lead. The race will be shown live on ESPN 2 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern and will re-air on ESPN Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Thursday night marks the IRP debut of the NASCAR Super Truck Series. Tour standouts Mike Skinner, Ron Hornaday, and points leader Butch Miller will vie for the inaugural honors at the action-packed Trading Cards 150. ESPN will be live at 9 o'clock Eastern with Dave Despain and Benny Parsons calling the action. And you can bet they aren't calling them cars anymore. And for the 14th year, the Busch Grand National Series will contest the Kroger 200 on Friday under the lights as Johnny Benson and Chad Little continue their points battle. ESPN will be live beginning at 9 o'clock Eastern. 3 hot August nights on 1 hot network.
And we'll see you next live from IRP next Friday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. The very able Dave Despain will guest host. I'll be manning the booth at the Brickyard with Benny Parson. We leave you tonight with a look at the Great Continental Divide Car Rally in the Colorado Rockies. The proceeds of the charity event benefited the Juvenile Arthritis Summer Camp. So long, everyone.